I love wearing circular shawls, and I love knitting circular shawls. The whole thing started many, many years ago when I read Elizabeth Zimmerman's Knitter's Almanac. Now, her July project is to knit a pie shawl or a circular shawl. And her point is you can take just that project and have many, many, many hours of knitting and take up very little space. The thing about circular shawls is that they're actually very easy to knit once you get started. The tricky little bit can be at the very, very beginning. See how you go down, and this entire shawl actually started right here in the center, would you believe, with only 8 stitches. And the idea, right there in the center, the idea is you start with those 8 stitches, and you keep increasing at regular intervals, and you just keep increasing. See how I get my big flowers started? And then from there, this shawl in particular is easy because I just go out in a nice, simple feather and fan, and it goes out and out and out until we get to the end. Now, the key here is the center and getting it started. Elizabeth Zimmerman uses her friend's cast-on, Emily Ocker's cast-on, to start all of her circular shawls. I'm going to show you how to do that, and then you'll be well on your way once you decide to do one for yourself. These are the instructions for Emily Ocker's circular cast-on in the back of the Knitter's Almanac. Turns out that Emily was a friend of Elizabeth's, and whenever anyone asked her about her famous cast-on, she claimed she didn't invent it. She thought that was how everyone cast on for circular shawls. So, just a little bit of trivia for you. You can also see where I am starting my next shawl, and the most important part about this is that I'm actually working with one long circular needle. I use the magic loop technique to begin my circular shawls. It's much, much easier than messing around with 4 double-pointed needles, super lightweight yarn, and very, very few stitches. So let's get started on the cast-on. I'm going to use a worsted weight yarn because it'll make it easier for you to see what I'm doing as I work. All right, to begin with, you have the tail end of your yarn. You just put it behind the main part of your yarn, and I make a fairly decent sized loop so I can really see what I'm doing. Then what you do is you've got your yarn, and I hold it sort of like this in my hand, okay? And you go into the loop, grab the yarn, pull it back through the loop, and then you actually make a crocheted single stitch through that yarn you pulled through the loop, okay? So you go down into the loop, grab a strand through, and then pull the yarn through that as though you were making a single crochet stitch. And now look, you've got 2 stitches on your crochet hook. Go down into the loop, grab the yarn, pull it through, and then make a single crochet stitch through that yarn. Okay? Now most circular shawls start with probably about 8 stitches. So you go down, pull it through, this is all a little hard to see just in diagrams. It took me a while to figure out how to do the Emily Ocker, so if you've been struggling with it, it's really okay because it isn't completely straightforward. So let's get 8 stitches on here, and then I can start showing you how I use the magic loop for this because it is so wonderful. You're just not going to believe how nice and easy it is when you have a magic loop method. Okay, I think I have 6, 7, and 8. You know, this is going to be awkward because you are using very few stitches. There's no way around it. I would recommend 2, 4, 6, 8, that you give yourself a little time quietly somewhere to get yourself started on this so that you don't get interrupted and get confused. Okay, so right now I have 8 stitches. So I grab my magic loop And all I do is transfer those stitches from the crochet hook right onto my magic loop needle. And after you get them transferred, the key that you want to do is you want to make sure that this part, okay, now you slide it down. Sorry, I was thinking ahead of myself and I would have confused you there, so never mind. Just slide the stitches down, hold them, count out half of them, in this case 4. Just like any other magic loop technique, you're going to just, bend your cable. And in this case, so you're just dealing with a very, very small number of stitches, but don't worry about it. It's no different than if you were making a sock, just like a really, really small sock is what you're doing here. And what you want is for your yarn, working yarn, to be in the back. And just like that, look at this. I've got my magic loop ready. See, got the loop here and a loop here. And I knit my first 4 stitches. 1, oops, sorry, got out of camera there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then just like I'm doing a sock, I do a magic loop. I pull all of my yarns around. If you're really comfortable with double points, go ahead and use double points. All you're doing is working a very, very, very small circle. So whatever method works for you, once you have the stitches cast on with Emily Ocker's technique, you can do anything you want with them that you're comfortable with knitting a small circle. I'm just comfortable knitting around with my magic loop. And I come around. So I've done those 4. And any instructions that you have for your pattern, like you might knit 2 rounds of these 4 stitches and then do a row of increases. No problem. You can still do it just like this. Now, I've done 1 round completely around. I'm going to do 1 more completely around, and then I'm going to show you the magic of Emily's cast on, because where it is great is you can actually pull it into a tiny, tiny dot. You don't have a hole in the center of your shawl, because since you cast your stitches around or crocheted them around that center circle, you can pull that center circle taut, and it ends up not leaving any kind of hole or anything. See how nice it is to do this with a magic loop? Okay, now, then, if you look at it, here's my big center, and normally you'd think that would be just a huge hole. Look at this. You just pull on your tail, and the hole just turns into a little tiny bump. All gone. That's Emily Ocker's cast on, and then knitting along with a magic loop, 1 long circular.